Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Giancarlo. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We're now a couple weeks into the offseason. It's mid-November. GM meetings are past. Free agency, we haven't really gotten too much yet, but that's, I guess, kind of expected at this point. But broadcaster free agency happened this last week. Jason Benetti going to the Tigers. That happened. But we got some interesting quotes from Brian Cashman that could end up being kind of a large part of this offseason and beyond for the Yankees.
Yes. It definitely, like, you see the quotes that he had and you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. But then, like, you find out there's some certain things that might have some bigger implications. So it's definitely fun to get into.
Yeah. So we'll just get right into it. So a couple of days ago, Brian Cashman spoke to the media about Giancarlo Stanton, who we've talked about, his potential future with the Yankees on this show before, but he's beginning to hit his old man years. He played 101 games last year, missed some due to injury, and he's kind of missed a couple of games due to injury, at least in every season with the Yankees throughout his tenure, unfortunately. And Brian Cashman said, well, our plan for him is he's not going to play every day because he just doesn't, because he's going to get hurt, because that's just what he always does. I think he said, that's a part of his game.
Yeah.
Basically openly saying, yep, this player's going to get hurt because he always does. Stuff that fans say. You hear fans, it's how people talk about, Byron Buxton, how people talk about, I don't know, who else? Mike Trout, to a degree nowadays.
Yeah, DeGrom before the surgery.
Jacob DeGrom before the surgery. Yeah, but that's a GM talking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And that narrative has been present with Giancarlo Stanton since about 2019. And maybe even before that with the Marlins a little bit. But yeah, it's very funny, and it reminds you that, okay, yeah. General manager, much of the job is, the baseball operations, getting the right players, signing the right people and having a good relationship with ownership. But it's also to be a public relations sort of diplomat, and you need to represent your team well and represent your players well. And when something like this happens, it reminds you whoa, you really need to nail that part of the job. Otherwise, things are going to look really bad for your organization.
Especially as the GM of the New York Yankees, in this stage where the organization is kind of at a low point, where, they haven't been to the World Series in 14 years, or however long it's been at this point. And, there's been a lot of criticism of Brian Cashman in the media and among the fan base, and this is certainly not helping his cause. It's also not the first time that Brian Cashman has made an enemy out of a prominent player in the organization. There's the very famous beef he had with Derek Jeter in the early 2010s. I don't know if you know about this, Chris, but Cashman openly was yeah, I want Troy Tulowitzki over you, and Jeter always held it over him.
Huh. Wow. Yeah. I don't think I was paying enough attention back then, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. Eventually that happened, but
eventually, yeah.
But way late into Troy Tulowitzki's career. But yeah, no, it's pretty wild. And then there's the element that I think a lot of people found out about is Giancarlo Stanton's agent came out against Brian Cashman, stating his displeasures, which obviously there can be many to state there. But the fact also that Giancarlo Stanton's agent is also Yoshinobu Yamamoto's agent, who's, arguably he's probably the second most sought after player on the free agent market this year, coming over from Japan with what he's been doing. So yeah, it definitely adds a whole nother element.
Yeah, and he's probably the top target for the Yankees. I don't know if Shohei Ohtani is something that they're looking at right now because they seem to have their eyes set on some other big names in the free agent market. But uh, yeah, it's very puzzling to see why he would say these things. So Joe Wolf, I believe his name is, the agent that Giancarlo Stanton has, came out and said, like, for any free agents considering the New York Yankees, like, just remember that you gotta be made of Teflon, is what he said, both, at all times, because you can't let your guard down even in the off season. And obviously, I'm sure that's a message that will be conveyed very directly to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who will be, getting big offers from a lot of teams. The Yankees might be the highest bidder at the end of the day, but it might not be a big enough gap to outweigh the consideration of, if I'm not perfect every single day, it's gonna, everyone's gonna turn against me, even my own organization.
Yeah, yeah, it can definitely add an element, especially for a guy that's going to be signing what will likely be anywhere from 7 to 9 years, a 7 to 9 year deal where, yeah, you're locked up there. Probably not any opt outs in that deal either. If I had to guess, and you're locked up there. You're in a place for over half a decade, guaranteed. So unless they trade you, which is very unlikely. So yeah, you kind of have to fall in love with the organization a little bit too.
Mhm. And I understand that, from an on-field perspective, Giancarlo Stanton has kind of become a burden for the Yankees over the last two seasons. Between 2022 and 23, he's hit 202 with a flat 100 OPS plus. He's been a league average hitter with poor defense and, not much availability in the outfield. There was the whole saga of he had to play the outfield because other people needed a DH, and he was, or he couldn't play the outfield or whatever it was. But, I get that some of the things with him have become very frustrating. But, I still feel like you're not really that obliged to come out and outright say it like that as a GM, because you still have him under contract for 4 more years. Um, and, I mean, even if he's not the bat he used to be, he's still putting up 20 home runs a year. He's still, hitting the ball as hard as he always did. Like, there is still something there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like coming out against your player like that, especially, during the off season when uh he's not really available to speak for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not in the clubhouse getting interviewed, every day. Where yeah, if I were a Yankees fan, I'd be fairly upset by this. Because yeah, there nothing really gets done expressing that to the media, that it's not going to make Giancarlo Stanton any healthier necessarily. I don't think it's going to light a fire under him. He's not at the stage of his career where I don't think that problem is going to be readily solved. So yeah, it's probably going to be pretty counterproductive. As far as how it affects Yamamoto's free agency, I think maybe it'll be a small factor, but ultimately, if the Yankees come with a good offer, there's still there's still, even with these comments and stuff, they're still a pretty attractive organization. They have however many consecutive winning seasons that they never tank. There is that, so there's it's definitely an attractive option for Yamamoto, but this does slightly take away the attractiveness of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that I'm comparing him to just another guy from the same area, but, Shohei Ohtani opted not to go to the Yankees because, like, largely because of the media aspect in New York. Like, it was, I remember back in the offseason between 2017 and 18, it was widely expected that the Yankees were going to be the biggest bidder for Ohtani, and, like, he outright was like, "I'm not signing with them," like, well before he even signed with the Angels. It's not like a thing where it came down to the Angels and Yankees. He just pretty much crossed off the Yankees pretty quickly. Um, so, I feel like it's possible that, like, it is a known thing among Japanese players that, yeah, if you play in New York as a big name free agent coming over, it's gonna be tough. Um, and, yeah, I mean, if the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox all come with similar offers and it comes down to a tiebreaker between those two, those comments are probably gonna end up hurting the Yankees in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, it's very, very possible. Um, it's very possible with that. Yeah, I mean, anything more regarding the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, those quotes from the agent are pretty much just from the mouth of Giancarlo, but he didn't want to, understandably, didn't want to come out and be the one to say it. He's still in that clubhouse for, under contract another 4 years. I feel like it's going to be tough to trade him if the Yankees are interested in doing that at all. But I don't know. I find it very weird that Cashman made these comments. I understand where he's coming from with the whole thing of Stanton's gonna get injured, but you don't need to come out right and say it, especially this early in the offseason.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a Giancarlo Stanton, no matter what he's done the past couple years, a very well respected player in baseball, and
Hmm.
probably pretty well respected in the clubhouse. He's been there, one of the longest tenured Yankees as well. He's been there for now 6 seasons, and made his impact in whatever way he has. Maybe underperformed, absolutely, but has had a big impact in the playoffs. So, yeah, it's interesting to go after someone or comment like that about someone who probably has a decent amount of respect in the Yankees clubhouse. Yeah, I mean, as far as longer tenured Yankees, it's Judge and I
I
mean
think it might
Severino's on the
just be
free agent market
Judge.
right now.
Yeah, I guess yeah, Severino's not technically in the organization right now. I think it might just be Judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Glaber came up midway through 2018.
Hmm.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, uh, very interesting situation there. Um, yeah, anything more before we get into free agent predictions?
No, I think we're ready.
Yeah, and this is our fifth off season that we're covering here, right?
Hmm.
Um, or yeah, fifth off season that we're covering. First time we're doing like specific team MLB free agent predictions, which is unusual. I feel like a lot of shows do their own certain predictions. We're diving a bit deep here. I think you listed 52
Yeah,
MLB
I
free
went
agents.
I went with a lot of guys.
Yeah, yeah, and it gives us more opportunities to be right, which we need
Yeah.
with how our predictions have gone this year. But along with that, uh yeah, we aren't going to go full detail on all 52. Obviously, we'll kind of rapid fire on some of them, but some of them do need to be discussed a little bit more. Free agency is a big deal for a lot of teams this year. A lot of teams, I think, are really trying to make that next step up, and are maybe two guys away from being a postseason contender. Most notably, like Red Sox, Giants, even maybe the Cubs also. So
Hmm.
yeah, should be an exciting thing. But yeah, we will talk about who we think is going where. And for whatever reasons we have, I'm excited to hear some of your reasoning on your free agent predictions. All
Yeah.
right, so I guess we'll start at the top of the list, and I think
Mhm.
this is one of the more consensus. Just people think this guy's going to this place.
Mhm.
So I mean Shohei Ohtani.
I have Dodgers.
Yeah, I have Dodgers as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just has felt like for so long that they've been waiting for it. And I mean, it's, they're certainly going to have competition. Like for as much of a consensus as it felt like for a while, I don't think it's a guarantee that it happens, but I definitely think as of right now it's the most likely scenario. The Dodgers, I mean, they're not obviously not going to have Shohei on the mound next year, but you know, for the long term, they definitely need some pitchers to slide into that rotation for years to come, um, especially next year. And obviously, next year it won't be in effect, but uh, they have the money to do it, and I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like it's kind of inferred by now what my reasoning would be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. With with the Dodgers, part of this also why this is an easy prediction for me. Part of it is, I think maybe last year around this time we were talking about like the potential of a Dodgers Mets bidding war for Shohei Ohtani, but um, some of what Max Scherzer said about the direction of the Mets and what the Mets told him when they were about to trade him last year, I think that it tells me that the Mets organization is not looking to make that type of signing right now with Shohei Ohtani. You know, I'm sure maybe they'll be involved in the bidding war, but I don't know if they're going to come out on top, and I don't know if they have the, you know, best reasoning to get him right now. You know, wouldn't be shocked if they got him, but I just don't know if how much in the conversation they will be. And then also with Shohei Ohtani, like, we're talking about all these free agents, and some teams, you know, can afford, you know, a lot of teams can afford to go out and get free agents and make their team better, but there are very, very few teams that can get a Shohei Ohtani type player. There's maybe like 5 teams you can list off, like you know, Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, and maybe even the Cubs, Giants. So maybe 6 teams, but yeah, I think it lowers the competition for him. He will be paid handsomely, but yeah, I think he'll go to the Dodgers. And also part of it is this is not going to be a hard sell for Shohei Ohtani. You know, I know that they've had postseason struggles, but they won 100 games last year. It's not necessarily because of how their roster was constructed, maybe partially because of their starting pitching, but they can improve on that. And the Dodgers have been a winning machine for a while. And also it's just across town for Shohei Ohtani. I think he enjoyed the West Coast. I know when he came over in 2018, he kind of had his interest on the West Coast, particularly for whatever reason. So I think he'd enjoy staying there. And yeah, I think that's just how it's going to go. And I think that's a lot of the reason why most people think he's going to go to the Dodgers.
Yeah. I also think that the Dodgers are going to be in a very reactionary mode, given how their season just ended. You know, like another really bad postseason failure for them, maybe the worst one that they've had in this window from 2013 on. I really wonder if they get very reactionary in the front office.
Yeah, and we kind of were talking about it prior to the 2023 season, how their offseason heading into 2023 was a little fishy. You just didn't get what they were doing. They didn't spend a lot. They lost a lot. They lost Trey Turner, Justin Turner, and Tyler Anderson. I know letting Anderson go was probably a smart move, but nonetheless, they lost some valuable talent from that 2022 team and didn't really supplement them that much. And we thought, like, hey, maybe they're trying to save money for a bigger signing later on, you know, most notably Shohei Ohtani. So it would make sense. And I mean, it would boost their team even further to what it is. And he'll probably be valuable for a pretty long time. All right. Anything more before we get into the next free agent?
No, let's talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yeah, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Where do you think he will be going?
I have him signing with the Boston Red Sox. I think with Craig Breslow coming in, I think there's going to be a lot, and also just the team being very mediocre for much of the last 4 years. I think there's going to be a really big initiative to look really good coming into opening day next year. And I think the number one way for Craig Breslow to do that and the Red Sox organization to do that, and kind of, you know, deflate this narrative that they've given to themselves in the last 4 years very quickly, would be to sign Yamamoto. You know, I feel like that's going to be, you know, that's the big move. It seems like the one that they're most interested in, and I feel like that's the one that they're going to go out and do.
Right. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. And I'm trying not to, you know, predict with my own optimism, but I also have him going to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And I think our reasoning goes beyond the fact that we want him in Boston, but it also goes to the point of, you know, let's remember the last time the Red Sox had come off 3
back-to-back last place seasons. Yeah.
Back-to-back last place seasons, had finished in last place 3 of the previous 4 seasons, and we're going into new general management, new front office power. That was heading into the 2016 season. They went and got the biggest free agent pitcher on the market because that was their biggest weakness. Their biggest weakness was starting pitching. So they went out and got the biggest starting pitcher on the free agent market in David Price. And this year, I think there is a giant parallel with that. And they are going to do that with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And yeah, I think Craig Breslow is in on it, but I think more importantly, John Henry and the Fenway Sports Group is definitely in on it. They want to show, they want through Breslow to show that they are, they're in a different organizational run. They're in a different organizational mindset, and going to get the big guys, make the big moves. Let's not be tentative. So they're probably going to sign him to a very big deal here. In my opinion, in my prediction, and I think there's a lot of reason why Craig Breslow would like him. The Red Sox need innings. He averaged over 7 innings per start in Japan, and I know Japan's different. They expect their starters to go a little longer, and also I think at bats are just generally a little bit shorter. There's like less walks, less strikeouts over there. However, he does seem to have some longevity there. So yeah, I think the Red Sox would like him. I think the change in organizational mindset will help out with that, and yeah, that's why I think he will be going to the Red Sox, and as well as you. Anything more before we move on to Blake Snell?
No, go ahead. Who do you got Blake Snell going to?
Yeah, this is a weird one to predict.
It is. I think this is definitely where we start going in very different paths.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, a reunion with the Padres is very unlikely. And yeah, I actually, something we hadn't got into, and I don't know if we want to get into it now, but unfortunate
RIP.
that
RIP Peter Seidler.
Yeah, rest in peace, Peter Seidler. One of the better owners out there in in baseball, unfortunately passed away recently. But one of the in a non-sympathetic sense, part of that death also is the fact, like, what goes into that is, like, you don't know what the Padres organization is going to be doing this offseason because they don't know necessarily where the money is coming from. So it kind of puts them in a weird organizational spot, but obviously goes farther beyond that, hoping good wishes to his family and everything. But regarding Blake Snell, yeah, I don't think a reunion with the Padres is going to happen. I wonder what teams are going to be looking at with him. I wonder how his low innings per start is going to be valued on the free agent market. I wonder how his potential good luck on batted balls last year is going to be valued. But his run prevention was up there. It won him. It's probably going to win him a Cy Young tonight. As that award is coming out tonight. But yeah, I have him going to the Phillies. I think Aaron Nola will not re-sign with the Phillies. He'll go somewhere else. And I think Blake Snell will go to the Phillies. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with any organizational philosophy. Like, it's just that they sign big guys. I don't know. I think Dave Dombrowski is going to like the move more than Sam Fold, who's the, VP or no, just GM. He's just the GM under the president of baseball ops. But I just think Blake Snell is going to go to the Phillies because it seems like a deal that the Phillies would make.
I also have him going to the Phillies. Yeah, we are not going in different paths at this point. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a greater variety of teams interested in Aaron Nola compared to Blake Snell. The Phillies are also, I think, a team that's going to be very reactionary, given how their season ended last year. I think Dave Dombrowski really wants one with his group, and I feel like there's kind of like there's some sort of feel that they got to do something big, and I think Blake Snell is going to end up being what that is because. Yeah, I do see Aaron Nola going somewhere else. I think if they were going to re-sign Nola, they would have just signed him to an extension beforehand. It really didn't sound like they were, too in-depth of talks about extending Aaron Nola beforehand. And yeah, I think they're going to end up replacing with Blake Snell, and then ideally signing Zach Wheeler to an extension in spring training as well, because I see no reason to not try to bring him back in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And yeah, just like it's easier to sell the fan base on a guy coming off a year with a 2.38 ERA as opposed to a 4.46 ERA, even though the, underlying numbers and in start longevity, that does play a factor, and it's a predictor of future success, which is why we look at those numbers, the underlying numbers specifically. But yeah, I think that'll I definitely see that being a Phillies move. All right, so now on to the pitcher that we do not think will be returning to the Phillies, Aaron Nola. Where do you have him going?
I have Aaron Nola going to the San Francisco Giants. I know that like the you definitely have that too, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I think that I mean, as of right now, it seems like the Cardinals are going to be a favorite. It sounds like a lot of their focus is going to be towards that. But I think the Giants are just very hungry to do something big this offseason. They signed Carlos Correa in last offseason. It fell through. They almost signed Aaron Judge. It fell through. And they were pretty close to making the postseason. And they also just brought in Bob Melvin, who's definitely a win now type of manager. And I think the guy that they go out and get is Aaron Nola. There's definitely a hole in that rotation after Logan Webb. It's Descalfani, it's Ross Stripling, Alex Wood. I think there's definitely better names out there, and I think Aaron Nola is going to be the guy that they look at.
Right. And part of why I think Nola will be going to the Giants is how that organization is run, specifically with Farhan Zaidi at the helm. I can't think of too many specific signings, but there are some pitchers that have been signed where it's like they sign them and it's like, I don't know about that signing. I don't know about that money. Like, I don't know if they can, or if they're going to be able to fix him. And I think like Kevin Gausman is an example of that. Like, he was kind of running around, going team to team, and they were able to make something out of him. Alex Cobb was a guy who had like good underlying numbers with the Angels, but not great run prevention numbers. And they took him, and he's been pretty good with the Giants, especially for the small deal that he got. So I think the Giants look at the underlying numbers and things like that, and Aaron Nola has those good peripherals and everything. And I think they're gonna also like his durability, the amount of innings he gets every year, and also he's on the younger side for a free agent starting pitcher, so someone that they can rely upon potentially for 5 or 6 years. So yeah, I think part of it for me is like that. I feel like that's a Farhan Zaidi move to go with Nola over someone who maybe had a lower ERA, but not as good peripheral numbers. So yeah, anything more before we move on to Cody
No,
Bellinger?
I'm still waiting on one disagreement, and I don't feel like we're getting it here.
Okay, where do you have Cody Bellinger going?
I have him going to the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yep. You want to get into it first?
This part of it for me is like the meme sake of it, because I think we're 1 week removed from Brian Cashman on his hands and knees begging the media not to call them an analytically run team, and stay away from them using any like anything more than batting average and RBI to go into their decisions. And Cody Bellinger, if you're unaware, he had a bounce back season. However, he was one of the more lucky hitters in baseball, and that success doesn't seem sustainable. For example, he hit 309 on ground balls. He had 309 on non-hard hit ground balls, which is 121 points above league average. Like, he had very good luck on finding the holes, and he was above like league average by 2023 standards, non-shift standards. It wasn't because part of it had to do with the shift is his improvement on luck with ground balls, but a lot of it is luck factors. He didn't, his average exit velocity dropped by a good bit, even though his strikeout rate dropped by a good bit, which is good. But when you looked at his expected stats, he was closer to an average hitter than an elite hitter, to put it to put it frankly. So if the Yankees are not run on analytics, I think they will like him more than a lot of teams. Particularly, any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think, outside of all the expected metrics and the meme, I think the Yankees definitely need offense more than they need pitching. I mean, right, it wouldn't hurt to sign another starting pitcher, but if you go into next year with, Cole, Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Nestor, and then Michael King in your rotation, it's definitely not the worst case scenario. But I mean, their offense is a large part of the reason why they struggled in 2022. And I think Cody Bellinger is the best bat on the market this offseason outside of Shohei Ohtani. And I think, as a left-handed power hitter, he's going to fit nicely with the short porch. I think, maybe he won't outperform his expectations to the degree that he did this year, but I could still see him remaining as a guy that, has a high batting average despite a lower expected batting average and a high slugging despite a lower expected slugging. In Yankee Stadium. I think the fit could be there. Maybe it doesn't mean he has quite the year that he had this year with the Cubs, but I still think, he could be closer to that than, the guy that he was between 2020 to 22.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that I forgot to mention also is yeah, they need that offensive, they need some offensive holes to be filled, especially in the outfield. This is a team who had Aaron Judge last year, albeit not a full season, but still 458 plate appearances, who got on base at a 406 clip and had a 1019 OPS. Yet the Yankees outfielders still had the lowest on base percentage in baseball and the fifth lowest OPS. So, and that's with Aaron Judge. That's with Aaron Judge, who, continued to dominate last year in his 458 plate appearances and 106 games. So, yeah, they need Bellinger. They need an outfield bat a lot. So now we move on to a player whose free agency we were not really anticipating before the year started, but really emerged, especially in the later end of the year and in the postseason, emerged as one of the top free agents out there, and that's Jordan Montgomery, who helped lead the Rangers to a World Series, had a 1.29 World Series ERA, along with I think he in the regular season had like a ERA below 3 with the Rangers. Yeah, had a really successful run there. Where do you think he will be going in free agency?
Jordan Montgomery certainly pitched his way into a lot of money in October, and obviously there's a bridge burned with the Yankees with in 2022 Brian Cashman trading him and saying he wasn't going to make the playoff roster. But I don't think the bridges in New York are burned entirely. I have him going to the New York Mets.
All right. Yeah. The Mets. Yeah, it would make sense. They just traded two really, high profile pitchers this past trade deadline, and they definitely do need their share of starting pitchers. This is the first time
Finally.
All right.
Finally.
So I have him staying in Texas. I think they like him over there. I maybe I'm not using the correct logic here, but it just feels like when Nathan Eovaldi signed with the Red Sox after 2018, it just has that sort of energy to it. I don't know. Something I can't, not tangible, but I can just.
No, I definitely see it. Like I consider the Rangers for that reason, but the Mets are a team that's looking to compete next year, but I think they definitely need some bolstering the rotation. Kodai Senga is probably going to be at the top of that rotation right now, which is great. But after that, it's Quintana, who was hurt last year. It's Tyler McGill that's been on and off the injured list. Joey Lucchesi, Jose Budo. In the David Peterson's on the IL, but I don't know how if he's coming. And they don't really have anyone in the minors either that you can expect to be in that rotation next year. So I think if there's an upgrade that the Mets need, it would be exactly right there. And I think Jordan Montgomery is the name that makes the most sense, especially since I don't have them getting Yamamoto in my predictions. But I think Montgomery's the next best guy.
Yeah. It would make sense, and
that's realistic.
And along with to add on to my reasoning with the Rangers is, they don't have they have a lot of they have some starting pitching, and that's not necessarily one of their weaknesses at all. but I don't know if they have a lot of like long-term starting pitching options. Nathan Eovaldi is a free agent after 2024. I think the same thing with Andrew Heaney as well. And, Jacob deGrom is on the shelf right now. And Max Scherzer is also a free agent after 2024. So they need to still bolster their rotation for beyond this year. And, they don't really have Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker down in the minors have not been up to par necessarily. So they do need to have a longer term option, which is why I think the Rangers will be, if they don't get him, I still think they will be an aggressive suitor for him.
Good point.
So yeah, now we move on to another starting pitcher. It's good market for starting pitchers, not necessarily position players. Sonny Gray. Where do you have him going?
I have Sonny Gray as a Chicago Cub. What about you?
I have him going to the Cardinals.
Okay, so we're thinking NL Central. I mean, I think Sonny Gray fits the mold for both the Cubs and the Cardinals in terms of like what they kind of look for out of starters. Not necessarily guys that blow you away, but guys that are good at kind of the little things. And Sonny Gray obviously thrived last year on keeping the ball in the yard. He had I think the lowest home runs per 9 in the league. The Cubs are a team that I think are going to be aggressive this offseason. They already got Craig Counsell, which is, a pretty clear aggressive move. It sounds like they're in on Ohtani. They're in on Yamamoto. I don't know if they're going to land either of them, but I think Sonny Gray is, a good big name to throw into that rotation, to join Justin Steele. And honestly, Steele's really the only guy that you can look at in that rotation and be like, yeah, that guy's going to be good next year, because Tyone struggled this year. Kyle Hendricks actually did look a lot better than in years past this year, but you just still don't know how well you can pencil that in. Jordan Wicks looked all right this year, but he's young. Javier Assad looked all right last year, but he's also young. I feel like they need another guy that's like that you can really pencil in and trust in their rotation, and I think Sonny Gray is going to be the guy that they depend on there.
Yeah, that would be really a really interesting signing. For whatever reason, I think whoever ends up signing Sonny Gray, I think I'll admire that team and their ability to get him, because I think he's one of the most underrated players on the market this year. I mean, he was a Cy Young finalist. He had great run prevention and peripherals. Kept the ball in the yard, and I want the Red Sox to get him. I don't think they will get him. I think the Cardinals will get him, and part of that has to do with that starting pitching philosophy. They also have a big hole in their starting rotation. They don't really have anyone. They don't have an ace. They don't really have many just good pitchers in that rotation in general. So, getting Gray would help them out. I know that MLB Trade Rumors has a consensus prediction for Aaron Nola going to the Cardinals. So it seems like there is a prediction within the market that they will go after starting pitching. And I don't have Nola going to the Cardinals, so I'll have Gray going to the Cardinals. A lower velocity guy also, which is kind of what the Cardinals go for, and not necessarily it's not going to be a break the bank move, and it's not going to be a long-term move, which I think the Cardinals would be into. But I definitely see that for the Cubs as well. So, anything more on Sonny Gray before we go on to Matt Chapman?
No, I mean, I think you said it best. I mean, he fits the mold for both kind of what the Cubs and Cardinals look for, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to either one.
Yeah. So now with Matt Chapman, who is a really interesting free agent. He had one of the hottest starts in baseball this past year, but kind of fell off, but still has I believe still has the defensive prowess. Will probably improve whatever team he goes on defensively, most likely, unless it's like the Cardinals or something. With
you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I'll say, and this is mostly going off of, well, this is a couple of reasons, but this is mostly going off of their production at the position last year. But I think Matt Chapman's going to go to the Mets. They had poor production from third base. It started with Eduardo Escobar. It continued with Brett Baty. And part of this prediction also has to do with what the Mets tried to do last year. they tried to get Carlos Correa despite also having Francisco Lindor. So they weren't shy to attack the third baseman position, even though they have Brett Baty kind of marinating and trying to, try to continue to develop him. And, Baty underperformed last year. I don't think they're giving up on Baty, but they might just try to work him out at other positions. And the fact that they, were willing to, skip Baty's turn last year with the potential of signing Carlos Correa, I think that's all the more reason that they're going to invest in a third baseman this upcoming year. So yeah, that's why I have Matt Chapman going to the Mets. Where do you have him going?
Yeah, this might be my first like hot take of this show. I think I go off the beaten path a little bit here. I'm also going with the logic of production from that position, but I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers for where Matt Chapman goes. The Tigers also had poor production at a third base last year, primarily with Zach McKinstry and a couple other guys. The Tigers very quietly finished second in the American League Central last year, in the first full year of Scott Harris's tenure as the GM. And the last, they were in a very similar position after 2021, where they, kind of quietly performed very well. Ultimately didn't win the division, or go to the playoffs, but it felt like there was some promise there. And that offseason, they went out and signed Eduardo Rodriguez. They signed Javier Baez, and they kind of went for it a little bit. And obviously, unfortunately, that didn't work out too well. But I think they're going to do the same thing this year, and I think Matt Chapman is the number one name that they would eye on offense. I think it makes sense. I think it's a fit. It'll make an awesome defensive left side of the infield with him and Baez. And I think he's the kind of hitter that Detroit looks for, in that it's a guy that shoots the gaps, hits doubles, maybe isn't the biggest home run guy, but they don't need him to be. So I have Matt Chapman going to Detroit.
Yeah, with the Tigers, yeah, they had good third base production previous to like 2022 with, they had a couple good years out of Jeimer Candelario, but he's no longer with the organization. And so, yeah, I think they could definitely take advantage of this market here with getting Chapman. 39 doubles last year. He does shoot the gaps, which is something that's pretty valuable at Comerica Park, which is, notoriously a non-home run hitter park, but you can get your doubles. You can find your gaps there. So I have him going to the Mets. You have him going to the Tigers. And then now we move on to a guy you just mentioned in Eduardo Rodriguez. This is a really interesting free agent case. He just signed it was 2 years ago when he signed a 5-year deal. He's opting out of it after the second year with the Tigers. Where do you have him going this time around?
Yeah. I'm going to put Erod on the Arizona Diamondbacks in my predictions. The Diamondbacks, we saw it throughout the playoffs. They're a team that just doesn't have a lot of starting pitching depth. And I think, there's kind of a mindset in that front office being like, all right, you know what? Like, we could go for it, because we saw how that team just did in October. Even when you take the blinders off and look at it without the playoffs, they only won 84 games. They could have won a lot more. Gallen was good. Kelly was good. They have potential out of guys like Dre Jameson in the future, Ryan Nelson in the future, Brandon Pfaadt in the future. But I think they might want to go into the next season with one more established guy. And I think Erod will be the number one pitcher that they target. I think he's a guy that, kind of fits the mold of Chase Field, a lefty that can get the ball on the ground a decent amount. And yeah, I think that's the guy they go for. Also, there's there's a former connection with him and Torey Lovullo, Mike Hazen. Mike Hazen traded for him, or was a part of the team that traded for him in 2014 with the Red Sox. Torey Lovullo managed him through parts of 2015, and he was in the organization with him in 2016. So I think there's some familiarity there, and that's where I see him going.
Yeah, for sure. I would love that move for the Diamondbacks if it does indeed happen. They could really, really use that reliable, 3-starter. I know Pfaadt was good in the playoffs, but over the longer sample, he did not seem fully developed yet. He probably will be at some point, but not quite yet. So with Eduardo Rodriguez, I have him staying in Detroit. because he is he's the biggest fan of Detroit out there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he did say there was no geographical limitations on his free agency.
Yeah, that is fair. That is very fair. I could see that for sure. Yeah, I think part of it for me is like the fact that he waived his no trade clause, and I know he did say, no geographical limitations, but just from a PR sentiment and trying to boost your value, if you want to stay in one spot, that's just going to lower your value. There's going to be less teams bidding for you. So I think there's potential he does go to another team, but I think the Tigers, especially with the general optimism around that organization right now, I think they'll, make an effort to keep him around, and I think he'll take that offer. As you mentioned, it does seem like 2021 all over again with them, like coming off a year where they ended very, very well. The Tigers did. Could make some moves in this offseason. You have Chapman going there. I have Erod staying there. I think we both have them. We both have them making big moves. So
yeah, I think I see that, one thing that I said after the Rangers won the World Series that I really wonder if there's going to be a lot of teams that kind of just start spending big, even when they might not be in the best situation. And the Detroit Tigers are the first team that comes to mind when I think of a team in that kind of position.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything more on Erod before we go on to our first reliever?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of talk about like the whole like biggest Detroit fan out there, right? I mean, he waived his no trade clause during the trade deadline. I think there is a difference, obviously, between like uprooting your life and moving on a day's notice versus 3 months' notice. So like I could easily see him leaving the Tigers. I could also see him going back because that's definitely a rotation spot that the Tigers need to refill. And what better way than with the guy that was originally there? But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting case, but I do think there will be other teams out there that bid for him, certainly.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very fair point. There is a difference in, changing look, and along with that, like changing location for the span of 2 to 3 months, as opposed to potentially 4 or 5 years with a new free agent contract. So yeah, now on to Josh Hader, and yeah, there does seem to be a general consensus on
Yep,
MLB trade rumors, and does that continue with us?
absolutely. I mean, it definitely continues with me. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
This is the one that I talked about before the show, where I was like, I'd be very surprised if you didn't have the Texas Rangers.
yeah,
It's
it's
too
the
good.
Rangers.
It's too good, right? I mean, it's a team that's very willing to spend. It's a team that needs sustainability at the back end of their bullpen, and Josh Hader's right there.
Yeah, yeah. I I don't even know if this needs to be discussed that much.
No, I mean, I guess we can, right? I mean, Aroldis Chapman, who is kind of looked at as, I think the Rangers viewed him as the closer when they started, when they acquired him. He's obviously a free agent right now. Um, I think they definitely want to go in with a certified closer. I don't think they want to go into spring training being like, all right, it's time to start figuring out who it is. I think they want to have an established guy, and I mean, Josh Hader is literally the perfect guy out there for them because it's the guy that they can spend on. Obviously they're not shy about it, and it's the best reliever on the market, and it's the best reliever that's going to be on the market probably for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jose Leclerc is a pretty good closer. Did pretty well in the regular season and postseason. However, the Rangers just organizationally are willing to just get past that and bolster their team even more. Like even this past like in the 2021 to 22 off season, they signed 2 shortstops, and just put one at second base. Like
Yeah,
they can have 2 closers on the roster easily with Leclerc and Hader, and that's the winning way. Like you just have a lot of depth and create a lot of good situations for your team. So I think that's why it's a consensus that people are thinking he's going to go to the Rangers, and it's kind of going to be a surprise if he doesn't go there. All right. Now to Marcus Stroman. who opted out of his last year of his contract with the Cubs. Where do you see him taking his talents?
Yeah, Marcus Stroman, I have going to the St. Louis Cardinals. You had Sonny Gray going there. I obviously see them signing a starting pitcher because they kind of need to. Um, Stroman's a guy that had a great ground ball rate last year. I think it was like close to 60% in the time that he pitched. Cardinals still a very strong infield defense behind him, so I think the fit will be very nice. Um, I think it's a guy they don't have to break the bank for again. Uh, he was a free agent recently, and the Cardinals were in on him then. I see this one being no different. So I see Marcus Stroman going to St. Louis.
Right. We we got a little switcheroo. I got
Oh,
Gray going to the Cardinals. You have Gray going to the Cubs. I have Stroman going to the Cubs, and you have Stroman going to the Cardinals.
yeah,
Um,
it's like a trade.
yeah, a little tradey dues. And I think a lot of the reason why the Cubs/Cardinals would go after Gray is part of the reason why the Cubs/Cardinals would go after Stroman.
Mhm.
And Stroman obviously has already pitched with the Cubs for 2 years, done decently well, not bad. And along with that, ground ball pitcher, great middle defense with Swanson and Horner, two of the best in maybe the best defensive middle infield duo out there. As for third base and first base, it's kind of interchangeable. They don't. It's not necessarily great there, but middle infield wise, at the most important positions, they are very, very solid there. And yeah, I think Stroman is pretty well liked in Chicago. I was I actually went to one of his starts at Wrigley Field, and he had a big ovation when he was going out to the bullpen. And yeah, I think the Cubs are definitely in win now mode, and more than they were 2 years ago when they initially signed him. So I think they would offer some good money to keep him around. But in your opinion, that money will be going to Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have it staying with Marcus Stroman for.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gray's probably going to get a larger contract.
Yeah.
In terms of dollar value, AAV, years, whatever it may be, and I think the Cubs are going to be a little more aggressive and say, you know what, let's go get the bigger name out there.
Yeah, and just the general better pitcher as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think I would. Yeah, if I'm a Cubs fan, I want Gray over Stroman. But yeah, we will see. Hopefully things start rattling around winter meetings. Now on to Shota Imanaga.
Imanaga. Yeah, he's another pitcher, a left-handed pitcher coming over from Japan. He had pretty good. He pitched in the World Baseball Classic. I'm gonna pull up his numbers right now.
Yeah, from what
left-handed pitcher. He is going into his age 30 season, and last year he pitched 159 innings in Japan, had a 2.66 ERA, a 7.83 strikeout to walk ratio, 1.0 home runs per nine, which definitely is a lot more in Japan than it would be in the U.S. But I mean, he was a very good pitcher last year. 188 strikeouts in 159 innings, only 24 walks, 18 home runs allowed. He's a guy that probably could get like maybe 5 years, 20 mil a year.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that for sure.
Who do you have handing out that money?
I have the Giants.
Okay.
And part of this has to do with, I should have mentioned this when I talked about Aaron Nola potentially going there. Or my prediction of Nola going there is I think the Giants have a big chip on their shoulder this offseason. They failed to get two big free agents last year. Two big free agents last year, and they're a team where them and the Red Sox are fairly similar. I think the Red Sox just have a better farm system, but the Giants have some promise. They're like middling right now. They've been middling for 2 years now. Overperformed in 2021, but they've been middling for 2 years. They have some good veteran talent, but they need a couple more moves to boost them to a playoff contender, and or even a team that's probably going to get into the playoffs. And I think they're going to spend big money. They have a lot of financial flexibility over there, and I think they'll get Nola along with Imanaga. Also, just going with the organizational philosophy. Like his strikeout to walk ratio was crazy last year. I think Farhan Zaid is going to like that a lot. So yeah, that's why I have Imanaga going to the Giants. Where do you have him going?
Yeah, I don't know how active this team plans on being in the postseason, but I feel like this is a move that makes sense and a move that they can kind of just make to say like, look at this, we improved. I have him going to the Houston Astros.
Hmm.
I think there's still room for improvement in that rotation. Verlander isn't getting any younger. Framber Valdez obviously looked good this year, but you didn't really get what you wanted out of Christian Javier. Hunter Brown, I don't really know if he took the steps forward that they hoped he did in terms of run prevention. And JP France, I feel like is a guy that they can replace with someone better if they really wanted to. I think that's where Imanaga comes in. I think it's a very savvy move for them to make. I know that's kind of what they're all about, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, I think it's a place where they can improve. Obviously, they came up short last year, and there's also kind of a change in organizational philosophy with Joe Espada coming in as the manager now. It sounds like they're gonna be. I mean, obviously Martin Maldonado's a free agent, but Yainer Diaz is gonna be a guy they pencil into the lineup. It's a more analytically based move. Uh, I think there's a lot of changes they make organizationally, and I think that Shota Imanaga is that guy for them.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Astros could definitely use some rotation improvement. Just their team ERA plus, including starting pitching and bullpen, went down 26 points from 2022 to 2023. So it's not necessarily the same dominant, Astros pitching that we've grown used to. I think they could definitely use some improvement there. Now on to Jamer Candelario,
Yeah, ARR
who,
alum.
yeah, ARR alum, made a big improvement in his game this past year. Probably boosted his free agent value. Where do you think he's going to be going?
Yeah, I have Jamer Candelario going to the Mets. I think my logic is a little similar to yours with Matt Chapman. I think they kind of. I know that this is Steve Cohen we're talking about here, and yeah, they're clearly not afraid to, get the big guy, even though they already have Lindor on that left side of the infield. But I feel like they're just not ready to give up on Brett Beatty quite yet. I know that he kind of struggled last year, but that potential is definitely there. And I feel like they put Jamer Candelario there to kind of, plug up a potential hole at third base, but also not lock it up and erase Brett Beatty's chances of being a regular starter for them.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I have him going to the Phillies. Just I don't know if they're necessarily giving up on Alec Bohm, but just giving him less plate appearances.
Platooning him.
Yeah. And also Candelario has shown ability to play first base with the Cubs, and I think the Phillies, if they add Jamer Candelario, it would just add a different element to their lineup. They could switch around. I know they plan on having Bryce Harper be like the permanent first baseman, but he could go to DH. Candelario could DH. Candelario could play third base. I think it would just add some elements to it, to a place where they could, a place in the field where they could improve. So I think the Phillies might go out and do that. But yeah, with the Mets, yeah, I think the Mets just, yeah, it logically makes sense in just making a shorter term investment at third base, but still improving their 2024 team. So yeah, should be interesting. Now on to, is it Jung Ho Lee?
Jung Hoo Lee.
Yeah.
No, he's a Korean import coming in from the KBO. He's only 25 years old next year.
Yeah.
And he's played 7 seasons in the KBO. Has looked very good there. A 340 career average, 407 career OBP, 491 career slugging, 898 career OPS in almost 4,000 plate appearances. Last season, he looks like he got hurt. He only played 86 games. And it was a bit of a down year statistically by his own standards, but clearly a very talented player, an outfielder, bats left, throws right. Another guy that could get like a pretty decent contract coming over. What do you have? These ones are definitely very hard to predict, but what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I initially had him going somewhere else, and then I just made a switch in my mind. It literally flip-flopped with the next free agent. I have him going to the Mariners. I think the Mariners, I think they have a good history of like investing in overseas players, generally speaking. And along with that, they do need some offensive help. They need some help out of the outfield, especially with Teoscar Hernandez going on the free agent market. So I think they would invest in an outfield bat. But I could also see him investing in the next guy. But where do you have him going?
I also have him going to Seattle. Yeah,
Yeah.
we agree on that one. I think the Mariners are going to, make a decent number of investments to try to give their offense a makeover because it was very bad last year and it cost them a playoff berth in what should have been, a part of their championship window. I mean, I have Jung-Hoo Lee coming over. I mean, I think with Teoscar Hernandez leaving, that's going to be a guy that they can hopefully, be able to pencil in and be an upgrade over. I mean, right now they have Cade Marlowe as their opening day right fielder. So, uh, I think that would be an upgrade, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know. I think you kind of said it best.
Yeah, and also going with how the Mariners have been run as an organization, like over the past couple of years, they've opened up their wallets a good bit. So I see them continuing to make an impact on the free agent market. Now on to Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who just before the show, I initially had him going to the Mariners, but I don't know. I just more on a feeling thing. I have the Mariners going more after Lee as opposed to Gurriel Jr. Gurriel Jr. I think he will go to San Francisco. I think it will go to the Giants because the Giants are another team that desperately needs outfield hitting. I should actually go back to where they rank. Yeah, they were the San Francisco outfielders last year had the second lowest slugging and third lowest OPS in baseball last year. We mentioned how, they were impacted by missing out on Aaron Judge, and how Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto were not necessarily boosting their outfield power as much as they would have liked them to. And they will continue to pursue outfield. They will continue to pursue outfield power and outfield bats. I don't think it will be with Bellinger because I think Farhan Zaidi is kind of gonna look at the potential, look at the lack of sustainability with Cody Bellinger. And I think they will go with Lourdes Gurriel Jr. here.
Sure. So I made this list last week, and maybe my opinion has changed on this because of some things that have gone on within this team's front office in the last week. But as of right now, I have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. going to the Miami Marlins. I think it's kind of the fit feels it feels like an addition that they would have made in the last couple of years. I don't know if Peter Bendix is going to make this type of move because he's obviously coming in with a different philosophy, one that he's bringing over from Tampa. But I mean, I think there's obviously a lot of room for improvement in the offense. As of right now, their outfield is Brian De La Cruz, Jazz Chisholm, Jesus Sanchez, with Avisail Garcia as a DH. And I think Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is a guy that you could fit in there somewhere. Maybe I don't feel as strongly about it with Peter Bendix running the organization, but I think it's still definitely a possibility.
Yeah, it would make sense. The Marlins, they're probably most likely losing Jorge Soler. He is, on the free agent market. They could re-sign him, but if they don't, Gurriel Jr. would seem like a decent option for them. Especially, I think that front office is a little more inspired to spend and go after someone like Gurriel Jr., considering they just made the playoffs. So yeah, they may just build on that team. So yeah, you have him go to the Marlins. I have him going out west to San Francisco.
Staying out west.
Yeah, way out west. So now on to Rhys Hoskins, who unfortunately we did not see play this past year, but has a good level of notoriety in baseball, especially as a hitter, power hitting first baseman. Where do you think he will be taking his talents?
I have him going to a team we recently mentioned. I am going to Seattle. I think the Mariners are going to. I think Jerry Dipoto is going to move on from Ty France. He just hasn't really blossomed into the type of hitter that we thought he was going to throughout 2020 and 21. He was a league average hitter last year. You need more than that at first base, and he wasn't very good at defense either. I think he's a guy that they could trade for maybe some pitching, some bullpen, maybe even some offense. Um, and I think they bring Reese Hoskins in to take his place. Reese Hoskins, I think, is a more consistent hitter. And he's a guy that will make the offense better. And yeah, I think Reese Hoskins goes to the Seattle Mariners, joining Jung Ho Lee.
Yeah, they could definitely use some improvement at first base. Um, I have Hoskins going to a solid place. I have him going to.
Dude, I laughed before I even like saw what you were doing. I was like, he's gonna play the famous clip.
Yeah, shout out to number 46 out there
Yeah.
in charge. loves the idea of Reese Hoskins going to the Twins. Yeah, they just looking at the Baseball Reference like team list, they had Donovan Solano listed as their first baseman. And Donovan Solano isn't
Hey,
the
that's
worst.
the Hershey Award winner.
Yeah, he's not the worst option to have out there, but he also is, I think, 35 or heading into his age 36 season.
Mhm.
So, and the Twins are in a competitive window right now, and they're willing to spend on like a mid-level market guy like this. I could see them handing out, a potential 3-year, 4-year deal, or even the 1-year prove it deal because he is coming off an ACL surgery. So yeah, I think he would just fit on the team. I don't think he's going to stay in Philadelphia. You don't think that as well. So,
I mean,
so
they
yeah,
already said they're gonna play Bryce Harper at first.
yeah, exactly.
Like I don't think it could be any clearer.
Yeah, they're not going to have Hoskins play left field or
Yeah,
DH again
exactly.
so that Schwarber can play left. They're not going to do that. So,
No.
yeah, I'm going to Minnesota because it just seems like it would be a good fit.
Mhm.
Now on to Lucas Giolito, one of the more interesting free agents out there. Who do you think he's going to play for next year?
I think Lucas Giolito is going to, he's certainly on a redemption tour next year, trying to prove that he's not regressing like in a very aggressive way. And I have him going to Baltimore. I think he's going to perform a lot better with that large wall in left field because a lot of his issues are home runs. His strikeout to walk ratio was still very good last year. He struck out 10 batters per nine last year. His walk rate wasn't fantastic, but he gave up 2 home runs per nine, and that's just never going to cut it. And I think Baltimore will save him from a lot of those home runs. I think it's an upgrade that the Orioles could make in their rotation. I don't know what they're willing to spend this offseason, but they definitely need upgrades in the pitching staff. So I kind of see Lucas Giolito as that fit.
Yeah, I would like that move for the Orioles. I think Lucas Giolito might be more interested in the Orioles than the Orioles might be interested
Yes,
in
I
him.
agree with that.
Um, and
Like a
for me,
1-year prove it deal.
yeah, for me, part of part of this is feeling for me. I am going to the Dodgers, and I've developed
Yep.
this is a type of contract, and it's called the I can fix him deal.
Yeah.
The the Dodgers do this a lot. They have an I can fix him moment. They did that
And they
with Noah,
usually do.
and a lot of the times they do.
Like the narrative around that saying is you don't, but the Dodgers do.
Yeah, and they've they did that successfully sort of with like Tyler Anderson, famously with like Justin Turner, like he transformed
Jason
his career.
Hayward.
Jason Hayward, but they've also failed with Noah Syndergaard and Lance Lynn. But I think they will do the I can fix him deal with Lucas Giolito, and they do need more starting pitching, obviously. Shohei Ohtani, if they do end up signing him, he's not going to be in that starting rotation next year. So I think they will add to their starting rotation, and they will do it with an I can fix him deal with Lucas Giolito. Anything more on him before we move on to another team?
No, I like it. I like that one a lot.
Um, so now on to Mitch Garver, a power hitting catcher, did pretty well for Texas last year, has had a very good year with Minnesota before as well. Where do you think he will be going?
I really want to see this one happen. I think the fit would be a lot of fun. I have him going to the Cincinnati Reds.
Hmm.
I think
Interesting.
the Reds could use another bat. They could use, maybe they move on from Tyler Stevenson, a catcher. He had a down year offensively, and he's also kind of just a very big burden defensively to where they had to carry another catcher on their roster this year because they DH'd him. Uh, I think they bring in Mitch Garver to fix that and also give them an upgrade in the offense as well.
Right, right. For me, I have Garver going to the Bronx.
Oh,
I think yeah, the Yankees need some more catching. So, and they also need more offense. And Mitch Garver is a big provider of that. We saw that last year. And yeah, I think it would make sense, both from an offensive standpoint and a catching standpoint, to sign Mitch Garver, because also it's not a long-term deal. It would be 1 or 2 years, and I think he would help the Yankees roster a good bit as well. So now we move on to a very different player from Mitch Garver. It's Kevin Kiermaier, defensive specialist, maybe still reigning defending best defensive center fielder out there. There's definitely a good debate to be had there. Where do you see him going in free agency?
yeah, I have him staying in the AL East where he's been his entire career. I have him going to the Yankees. I think it's just a very good fit right now because, he's a guy that is a left-handed hitter, which is certainly a bonus for them, but he's also a guy that can, kind of hold down the fort in center field while they wait for Jason Dominguez to come back. And at the same time, he can be around a league average bat, maybe even above league average. Um, he'll be pretty cost effective for the Yankees, and he'll improve their defense as well. I think it's a move that makes a lot of sense for New York because it's not a guy that you have to make a long term commitment to, but it's a guy that can make a big impact in the months while you're waiting for Jason Dominguez.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I have him going to the Cardinals. You
Ooh.
know, just to be Harrison Bader without being Harrison Bader.
Mhm.
Because I noticed actually, when I was doing research, that the Cardinals had one of the worst defensive runs above average from outfielders last year. And the Cardinals pride themselves on defense. They've always been one of the
A
better
lot of that
defense.
was just Jordan Walker,
Yeah, a lot of that was Jordan Walker for sure.
unfortunately.
Um, and yeah, I see them potentially making some defensive improvements, and them going with Kevin Kiermaier to supplement that. Um, yeah. So, anything more before we go into Jorge Soler?
Let's talk about Jorge Soler, who opted out of his deal with Miami.
Yeah, I'll start and I'll say it's going to be a reunion for Jorge Soler. I believe he's going to go to the Cubs. Um,
Oh,
they are gonna, with me predicting Cody Bellinger going to the Yankees, the Cubs are gonna want some more outfield depth, some outfield power. So I think they're gonna go with Jorge Soler to have that. I think he's also just like a similar style of play to, like, say, a Suzuki, who they signed a couple years ago. So I think they'll put Soler in one of the corners there, and have him hitting home runs in Wrigley Field again.
yeah, that's a fun idea. I have him going to Fenway and playing for
Ooh.
the Red Sox. The Red Sox are losing Justin Turner this year in their DH spot, and I think they'd certainly have a lot of internal options to replace him, but I think maybe they go outside and get a guy that is known for having a lot of power, a guy that has a really fun spray chart when you look at it over Fenway Park. I could see him kind of revitalizing himself and maybe not getting exactly back to his 2019 days, but being a very consistent home run hitter. He's a guy that mashed against lefties last year. He had like a 1200 OPS against them. I think the Green Monster would have a lot of balls flying over it, into it, against it,
Yeah.
with Jorge Soler at Fenway.
Yeah, I would enjoy seeing that,
Hmm.
personally. So yeah, I'm going to the Cubs, you have him going to the Red Sox. Now on to another power hitting outfielder, Teoscar Hernandez, who had kind of an up and down year last year with Seattle after many years with Toronto. Where do you think Teoscar Hernandez will be going?
Yeah, I'm. You can use that 46 clip again because I have him going to the Twins. I have Teoscar Hernandez. I feel like he fits very nicely into that offense. I know that they have Willie Castro right now as their center fielder, with Byron Buxton DHing. So there's certainly an open spot for them in the outfield, that I think Teoscar would fit nicely in. He's another guy that he's a power hitter. Um, I mean, Joey Gallo's hitting free agency, so they could almost see him as a replacement to Joey Gallo, without the defense. But yeah, I think Teoscar would be a good fit on the Twins for like a 2-3 year deal.
Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez. I don't know if I'll do that every time, but
I was ready for the how about that for some reason. Like when I hear you say the name of a player and then put your phone up to the mic, I'm like, wait, whoa, I didn't just talk about him for 2.5 minutes. I talked about him for like 30 seconds.
the Pavlovian response. I get it.
Yeah,
I did that on purpose, sort of, not to trick you,
yeah.
but to have that same cadence. For I see another reunion happening. I see Teoscar Hernandez going back to Toronto,
Yeah.
where he was traded for, where he was taken from the notorious cheating 2017 Astros, where he was a
It would have been
major.
really funny if you said I have a reunion. I am going to Houston,
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
where he played that one game.
Notorious cheating pinch runner
I think
Teoscar
I
Hernandez,
think he literally played one game with the Astros.
no plate appearances. Um, but I am going to Toronto because Toronto did indeed miss him. They tried to supplement some outfield, offense with Dalton Varsho going there. But Dalton Varsho was kind of, underperformed, at least offensively last year. They also don't have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Anymore. And they need some more outfield offense. George Springer isn't quite the same as he was. So, and the Blue Jays are very much in a win now window, and it's closing day by day. So yeah, I think they'll go after another outfield bat, and I think that outfield bat will be Teoscar Hernandez, because that was one of their weaknesses last year.
And they
So
get to keep Eric Swanson as well.
yeah, little 2016 Yankees action there, or
Was he actually?
2017 Yankees action.
Eric Swanson was a Yankee?
No. Just
Oh, like you're referring to Chapman.
I was
Okay.
referring to Chapman and
Yeah, okay, I see.
um not quite the same situation, but yeah. So now on to Seth Lugo, who is was a decent bullpen piece for the Padres last year. Where do you think he will be? Where do you think he'll be going?
He's actually a reliever turned starter. They had him starting games last year. I don't know if he's on the free agent market as a starter, as a reliever. I put him on as a starter, and I have him going to the Seattle Mariners. I think they could use one more rotation piece with Robbie Ray being on the IL, with Tommy John surgery. As of right now, Fangraphs has them with Marco Gonzalez as their 5 pitcher. I don't think he actually will be, because they have Castillo, they have Kirby, they have Gilbert. They have Bryce Miller. They have Brian Wu, and I would even put Emerson Hancock over. But I feel like one more established starter wouldn't hurt. So I have Seth Lugo coming in and being that guy, and they could even transition to the bullpen if they need to. Um, and their bullpen wasn't as good last year as it had been in years past. Um, and they had a lot of guys break out that it's like, do I know that Gabe Spire is going to put up a 2.6 ERA again? I don't know. Seth Lugo is a guy that I think they can rely on a little bit more. So I have Seth Lugo going to Seattle.
Yeah, I initially had him going somewhere else, but I just changed my mind, considering um I don't think I was considering the team's positional need as much,
Mhm.
but I have him going back to Queens now. I'm obsessed with reunions right now. I'm in my reunion era.
Yeah.
But initially I had him going to the Angels, but I don't know how active um they're going to be in the free agent market. And Lugo's not necessarily a type of guy that they would sign and then use as trade bait, like maybe some of the other people I might have them be signing. But the Mets, as I mentioned, as you mentioned before, they do need some bolstering of the rotation. And I don't really have any of the top free agents going to the Mets. So I think just in my own universe, it would make sense that he would go to the Mets. He has experience there. I think the organization kind of liked him. So I think he will go back to the Mets. Now on to Harrison Bader.
I have Harrison Bader going to a team that you've foreseen being pretty active. I have him going to San Francisco, going to the Giants. You had Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and I have Bader. The Giants' outfield defense was not very good last year. It was bottom 5, I believe, in outs above average. Um, they can certainly use a guy like Harrison Bader to replace like Luis Matos out there or whoever they want to throw out at the outfield to start the year. But I could see him. They also have to continue the streak of different left fielders starting on opening day every year. Um, so so Harrison Bader could be a good fit there.
Yeah.
Do you have him going to the Cardinals or Yankees?
I am going to a different New York team. I'm going to the Mets as
Not
well.
a reunion, doesn't count.
No, yeah, it does not count. Um, unfortunately there. So yeah, I am going to Queens. Part of it has to do with just like looking at defensive statistics. The Mets were bottom 6 in defensive runs above average from both outfielders and center fielders. They just need more general outfield production. They have Nimmo, who was good last year, but Sterling Marte dropped off. Mark Canna they ended up trading, so they need some more outfielders. And yeah, I think Harrison Bader will be the guy that they go out and get in the outfield. So now on to Michael Wacha, our favorite.
Yeah.
Great run prevention numbers the past 2 years. Not very good peripheral numbers. We're waiting for him to break. Where do you think he's going to go?
So I have him going to Pittsburgh. Uh,
Hmm.
with the Pirates. Now, the Pirates, this like last year was a very big down year for them. And I know that sounds like such an easy thing to say because every year's been a down year since like 2016, but last year was I think a year where a lot of the, rebuild pieces were going to start to come to fruition. And it really didn't happen, especially in the rotation. I think they were hoping for a lot more out of guys like Quinn Priester, Roansy Contreras, Luis Ortiz. They got virtually none of that. And now Johan Oviedo is, seeing a specialist to consider Tommy John surgery, who was like one of the bright spots in the rotation last year. So they might have Mitch Keller throw 300 innings next year uh, if they don't sign any starting pitching. And I think Michael Wacha is such a perfect guy because they've done this in the past where they sign a couple, low budget free agent pitchers to trade. They did it in 2022 with Jose Quintana. They did it in 2023 with Vince Velasquez, with Rich Hill. And yeah, Michael Wacha, a great run prevention guy. We saw it early last season. I feel like that the guy at the Pirates could be like, you know what? Let's see if he puts up a 3.2 ERA and we could trade him off for something else. Which is very unfortunate that we're in year 5 of their rebuild and that's where we're at. But um, I see Michael Wacha as a Pirate.
Yeah, that would logically make a good amount of sense. Yeah, like yeah, it would seem like that sort of Jose Quintana type
Mhm.
situation once again. Or even Rich Hill last year. Like
Yep.
just take a guy for a 1-year deal, try to slice him off for something good. I'm I'm continuing with the meme. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but I
There's a
have
lot of
Michael.
reunion potential with
Um,
Michael.
I'm having Michael Walker go to the Yankees, because
Oh, okay. I see the meme.
yeah, because as Cashman said, they're not analytically driven. As we mentioned, like Waka has had some really good batted ball luck the past couple years. And but if you just look at his ERA, he looks like a phenomenal pitcher. But the free agent market, um, he's not going to get paid that much. He's not going to get paid based off of his ERA. And that's why he's not going to get the high dollar amount. And I can already see the tweets from angry Red Sox fans who don't really follow that stuff being like, oh, I can't believe we let Walker go to the Yankees. We failed once again. We failed to keep him around once again. But yeah, that's just a situation I could see unfolding. Now on to a different starting pitcher, Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, I have him another similar type of pick. I have him going to the Royals. Um, as our friend Foolish Bailey likes to say, Kyle Gibson is what I see as a Chad innings eater. Next year he threw 192 innings for the Orioles last year. Was not, particularly productive. A 4.3 ERA, a 4.13 FIP isn't bad, but I think the Royals are gonna give him the Jordan Lyles treatment next year.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't know if any contending team is going to be like, we need that guy, but I also don't think that nobody's going to be like, we need that guy. So I think the Royals are kind of just going to be that in between team.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, and before the show, I mentioned before recording, I mentioned like there's one guy who's like kind of niche that I'm pretty
Oh
adamant about
yeah,
going to one team. Kyle Gibson is that guy, and I'm using the same exact logic, the foolish baseball innings, Chad innings eater logic. But I have him, instead of going to the Royals, I have him going to the Cincinnati Reds. And if you
yeah,
think about it,
yep.
the Reds going into 2024 are in a similar spot as the Orioles were heading into 2023. Not saying that the Reds are going to win 101 games next year, but the Reds kind of overperformed using a lot of young players, and they have a pretty good farm system rising up through the ranks. But also the Reds have a lot of green, like young starting pitchers that they want to protect, most notably Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, but also Brandon Williamson and Andrew Abbott, some guys that are in their mid to early 20s that they want to, be able to protect. And Kyle Gibson is going to protect them. He's going to go 6 innings. He's going to allow 3 to 4 earned runs, and he's gonna go out there for the Reds every 5th day and throw maybe 185 innings with like a 4.9, 5.1 ERA, something like that. And yeah, that's where I see Kyle Gibson going, using the foolish Bailey innings eater logic. Shout out
Yeah,
to
I do worry about him pitching in that ballpark, especially coming over from Baltimore.
yeah,
But you know what? Yeah, the Reds need guys that can pitch a few innings.
yeah. Shout out to foolish Bailey, friend, alum of the program. So now on to Jack Flaherty. Where do you think he's gonna go?
I see another I could fix him type contract. Not with the Dodgers though, but with the Tampa Bay Rays. Jack Flaherty is probably going to be a pretty low budget starter. I could see him getting like maybe like a 1 year deal with a club option for a second year. I thought a lot of people thought Baltimore was going to fix him, and unfortunately they really didn't. But Tampa Bay is like another team that I could see. They sign him, especially because they're going to need rotation guys next year. McClanahan will be out with Tommy John surgery. Rasmussen will still be coming back. Springs will still be coming back. It sounds like they're going to be trading Tyler Glass now. So they're going to need guys that can start games, and Jack Flaherty, I think, would be one of those guys. It sounds like, the rotation next year is going to be like Zach Eflin, and then just, other people, maybe other people. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Could just be
And
Zach Eflin.
Glass now. Um,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
and,
they're trading Glass now.
oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
It sounds like they're trading Glass. Yeah, as of right now, their Fangraphs projected rotation is Tyler Glass now, Zach Eflin, Zach Littell, Aaron Savali, Shane Baz, and it sounds like they're trading Glass now. So, well, because he only has 1 year left, they're obviously not going to re-sign him.
yeah, that's
He would
interesting.
become one of the best starting pitchers on either the trade or free agent market. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah, I have Jack Flaherty going to the Rays because assuming they trade Glass now, they will need starting pitchers.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I have Flaherty going to the Angels. It's partly a thing of like they kind of did this with Noah Syndergaard a couple years ago. A guy with high potential. Injury riddled past a few years.
Forgot about Noah Syndergaard's Angels days.
Yeah, he showed ability a few years ago, and maybe they're gonna try to sign him and dish him off somewhere else come July. And that's just the type of deal I see happening with Jack Flaherty going to the Angels.
The entire like post Mets era of Noah Syndergaard's career has been so sad. Like he's literally following the Matt Harvey arc.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch. It does kind of stink.
Although Matt Harvey did have a good year on the Reds, like Noah Syndergaard hasn't even. I mean, he was kind of good on the Angels and also kind of good on the Phillies, but yeah,
Yeah, he
2023
was
was very sad to watch.
yeah, he was usable in 2022, but yeah, last year was
Like his
not
stats
great.
with Cleveland, he only made 6 starts with Cleveland, so obviously this is not what to go off of, but 4.9 strikeouts per nine, 2.7 walks per nine, which isn't bad, but then 2.7 home runs per nine for a 734 FIP.
Well, I remember this is a little short anecdote, but I remember you sent me a video of one of like Ellie De La Cruz's home runs early in his Reds
Yep.
tenure here, and all I saw was Noah Syndergaard throwing a 91-mile-per-hour fastball right down the middle, and I was like, "What is going on?"
Dude, it's so sad.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Someone made a video on Twitter of like it was like a compilation, like the Shaq Celtics meme where it's like, it's meant to symbolize like guys that are very past their prime. Someone made that like a compilation of baseball players. It was a fire video because it was like 2 minutes long and it was just guys that you forgot played on teams, and one of them was Noah Syndergaard on Cleveland. I'll try
Yeah,
to find the video because it's so good.
yeah, that's pretty fair. So now on to uh yeah, going past Jack Flaherty onto JD Martinez, who had a bounce back year last year with the Dodgers. Me personally, I believe he's gonna stay in LA, stay with the Dodgers, because I think the Dodgers need him. He, I think, likes being with the Dodgers, with an old teammate Mookie Betts over there, as we know. And yeah, the Dodgers they still need their lineup depth. They still want to compete. They still have plenty of money. So I think that he's gonna stick with LA. Where do you think JD
I have the
Martinez?
same thing. I also have him staying with the Dodgers. Yeah, pretty much for everything you just said. Uh, he succeeded on the Dodgers. I'm sure the Dodgers would love to bring him back. I'm sure he'd love to go back on a contending team like that. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So now on to Brandon Belt. Where do you think he will be going?
I have another fun one. I also have him going to the Pirates.
Ooh,
Might be a more aggressive move because he was actually pretty good last year. Um, but I could see the Pirates being like, you know what? If we're competing, he's a guy that's in our lineup, and if we're not, he's a guy that we trade. It is
yeah,
maybe more of an aggressive pick because there's reason to believe that there are contending teams that would want him. But I don't know. I think it's a vision that I could foresee coming to fruition.
yeah. It would be pretty interesting. Some Brandon Belt into McCovey, or not McCovey Cove. The other
Yeah, the
oh,
other body of water in right field,
yeah, the other one. Um,
Allegheny.
the Allegheny. So yeah, so Brandon Belt, by the way, he had an interesting year last year, like, on a 1 year deal with the Blue Jays, started very, very poorly, and then kind of got back to his old ways, and ended the year pretty well. I have him going to the Cubs. I think the Cubs have a little bit of a hole in the, general corner infield, but especially at first base. They tried Trey Mancini out last year, didn't necessarily work out. They traded for Jamer Candelario, but he's on the free agent market, and I don't have Candelario going back to the Cubs. So I would see Brandon Belt filling that hole at first base.
One.
All
By the
right.
way, I know that this is like kind of a mean thing to do, but Ron Washington was introduced as the manager of the Angels today, and he one of his quotes during his introductory press conference was, "Our whole focus will be to run the West down. You can take that to the bank and deposit it,"
Oh, wow.
which is
Yeah.
very fun.
Yeah.
I understand, you're supposed to say stuff like that as a manager, but he went full stop. He was like, "No, we are going to run the West, which has three teams that are getting better than us, not teams that are already better than us, but teams that are getting better than us."
Yeah. And we're coming off a 73 win year and are losing a player that was worth 10 wins above replacement last year.
And also could be losing a different player that has been worth 70 wins above replacement in the last decade.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that sucks. So yeah, I have Brandon Belt going to the north side. Daniel has
Yeah.
him going to Pittsburgh, different NL Central team. All right, now on to Adam Duvall, who is just on our favorite team, the Red Sox. Where do you have him taking his talents?
Yeah, I mean, this is an obligatory Braves moment. Uh, yeah, like Adam Duvall will just always be a Brave, even when he's not. It would be the third time they've acquired him, and yeah, no, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. I am staying away from the meme. I have him going to the Mariners for the same reasons I have Jung-Hoo Lee going to the Mariners. Mariners need offense. Mariners need offense out of the outfield. Mariners need power out of the outfield. They have for a while now. They have that with Julio Rodriguez, but they need that out of corner outfielders. Adam Duvall is the guy to go to with that. He's one of the premier, like, pure power hitting outfielders out there. So I think the Mariners could use him a good bit, and that ballpark doesn't seem to matter. I think Adam Duvall, when he gets a hold of one, it seems like it's going to go out anywhere. So yeah, I have him going to the Mariners. Justin Turner now, another former Red Sox.
Yeah, I have Justin Turner going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks are probably going to move on from Evan Longoria at third base. And I think Justin Turner would be a good replacement out there. He had a very solid year with the Red Sox. He's, very familiar with playing in the NL West, obviously. And yeah, I don't know. I think the Diamondbacks would be a good fit. I mean, it'd be an upgrade in that offense, certainly.
Yeah, I have Justin Turner going to the Mariners. More offense. Mariners.
Sorry,
need
Eugenio
offense.
Suarez.
They will get their offense, and they will get more and more offense. That's what I think the Mariners will do. So yeah, I have Lee, Justin Turner, and Adam Duvall all to the Mariners. I think that's the end of my Mariners offense run there.
Yeah.
So now on to Jordan.
All right, Jerry, go get to work.
Jordan, yeah, let's go, Jerry. Jordan Hicks, who just had his first full year in a good bit. He was solid with the Cardinals, went over to the Blue Jays. I think was pretty solid with them. Where do you think he's going to go this year?
I have Jordan Hicks going to the Baltimore Orioles. Felix Bautista is obviously out for the year. He had Tommy John surgery late in 2023. And you know what? Jordan Hicks is the closest thing to him on the market. I mean, his, velocity is the same. Obviously, their pitch arsenals are very different, but yeah, I mean, Yanir Cano can take over as closer, and to add more bullpen depth, Jordan Hicks is right there.
Yeah, Baltimore would seem like a solid option, considering all those factors. I have Jordan Hicks going to the Red Sox. I think part of it also for me has to do with I don't really have many players on here going to Boston. I have Yamamoto, but I don't really have a lot of other premier free agents going there. And I hope it doesn't go that way as a Red Sox fan, but I just see, with my forecasting of it, that's how I see it going. But with him going to the Red Sox improved their bullpen last year and improved the back end of their bullpen tremendously with Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin. The only problem with that is they're not long-term options. They're both in their late 30s. They both are not going to be necessarily relied upon for a long period of time, and they'll be here for this upcoming year, but beyond that you don't really know. Jordan Hicks could potentially be a longer term bullpen option for the Red Sox. Sign him to a 3-year, maybe even 4-year deal. I think Craig Breslow would like him, high velocity and very good ground ball pitcher. So I think he would go. I think he would fit well with the Red Sox. I think as a Red Sox fan, I would appreciate him going there. So yeah, that's where I have him going. But yeah, I could easily see him going to the other AL East team that we just mentioned. Now on to Yariel Rodriguez.
He is a relief pitcher out of Cuba. He also pitched in the World Baseball Classic. Did not pitch in 2023 from what I'm seeing on his baseball reference page, but yeah, a right-handed reliever. I'm waiting for his baseball reference page to load. He's going into his age 27 season, and in 2022, he pitched 54 innings in Japan and had a 1.15 ERA, which is pretty good. He didn't allow a home run in 54 innings, by the way. Yeah, I have him going to the Yankees. I think they're a team that could use some extra bullpen pieces. And yeah, I don't really know. I think he's going to the Yankees. There's not much analysis there, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll be going more rapid fire as the names get smaller. I initially had him going somewhere else, but I just made the switcheroo now, especially hearing for some reason I had him pinned as a starting pitcher, even though the innings
Mhm.
are whatever. But I now giving with you giving your pitch on Jordan Hicks going to Baltimore, I have Yariel Rodriguez going to Baltimore.
Nice.
They'll need a guy out of the back end of the bullpen. I think it would be a similar acquisition as like the Shintaro Fujinami
Fujinami.
acquisition. Um,
Mhm.
when they traded with the A's to get him. So yeah, I have him going to Baltimore for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned. Hicks going to Baltimore, sure up that back end of the bullpen, and he's probably a low risk, higher reward deal. I don't think he's gonna get. I don't think he's gonna be necessarily breaking the bank. Now on to Michael A. Taylor. Where do you have him going?
I have Michael A. Taylor staying in the AL Central, going to his third AL Central team, and joining the Cleveland outfield. I have him going to the Cleveland Guardians. They're a team that could use a little bit more, a little bit more offensive production out of the outfield. Miles Straw has been there for a couple of years. Stephen Kwan is still very good. Um, but there's definitely more to be desired out there. Michael A. Taylor is pretty good at defense, but also an upgraded offense over someone like Miles Straw. So I see that one happening. And yeah, I don't know. Like
Yeah, I
like you
could.
said, the analysis gets less and less as it goes on.
Yeah, I see Michael A. Taylor going to Miami. Miami could use some more outfield production, especially with Jorge Soler going away. And I think this is my first mention of Miami in these predictions. The Marlins had the 8th lowest FWAR from outfielders last year. So, could use some more production. And I think Michael A. Taylor will be that guy that they go to. Now on to Gary Sanchez, the
Yeah.
catcher.
I would say I would say that Gary Sanchez should be a package deal with Blake Snell. But I really don't think it's going to happen. Blake Snell had like a 1.29 ERA throwing to Gary Sanchez last year and like a
Yeah,
3.60 ERA to everyone else. Um, I have him joining the Miami Marlins. They're a team that did not have a lot of production at catcher. Jacob Stallings was back there for a while. Um, and they had Nick Fortes also, who was very good at defense. But not a lot of offensive production out of either of them. And Gary Sanchez is a guy that I could see fitting into that offense.
yeah. For those reasons, I am also going with Gary Sanchez to the Marlins.
Perfect.
They need some offensive production there. I don't think his defense takes away enough to where he's not an upgrade over those guys. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it would be a good fit over there. Um, and now to Michael Brantley, who's an interesting case. Didn't get too much playing time last year, but still a pretty solid, consistent bat out of the outfield. Just seems to get it done whenever he is on the field. It's just a matter of when he gets on the field, how often he's getting on that field. So where do you have him going?
I'm going with another reunion. I have him coming to Cleveland, coming home. He was there for a while. One of the most beloved players while he was there. Left in free agency and is still kind of, the same player to a degree. They're definitely thinking that needs more offensive production, and I think, he'll get some fans to the gates, if anything, as well. So, Michael Brantley, I have coming back to Cleveland. He could DH there. He could play outfield there. I have him and Michael A. Taylor coming in.
Yeah, I would love that for them. I would love that for them. It would be very
Yeah.
wholesome.
Yep.
Um, I don't know how many people would get this joke, but I also have a Michael Brantley reunion.
Into the Blue Jays.
It's with the Blue Jays.
Yep.
Remember when he was on the Blue Jays for 5 minutes and it
I
turned out to
thought
be,
about doing that exact thing, believe it or not, but then I was like, you know what, Cleveland.
yeah, like I think Ken Rosenthal reported it and Hazel May
Hazel
reported
May
it.
reported it. I remember that. Yeah, Ken
Yeah,
Rosenthal did also report it.
but it was incorrect. It was heading into the 2021 season. Yeah,
Yes.
that was the COVID off season.
Yep.
Um, yeah, he was allegedly going to the Blue Jays and then ended up signing the exact same 2-year deal with the Astros as he did 2 years prior. So yeah, I have him going to the Blue Jays. A lot of the same reasoning can go into why I think the Blue Jays are going to sign Teoscar Hernandez, need more offense out of that outfield, and they're also losing Kevin Kiermaier in our world here. So, they'll need some more outfield production, and I think they'll get that out of Michael Brantley. All right, now on to Kenta Maeda. Where do you think he's going to go?
I have Kenta Maeda staying in Minnesota, remaining as a member of the Twins rotation. The Twins obviously, got some good use out of him last year after he came back from his injury. And I feel like they are one pitcher away from having a more complete rotation, because right now, Fangraphs has Louis Varland as their 5th pitcher, with Lopez, Ryan, Ober, and Paddock. So I think Kenta Maeda, he's a guy that looked good over there last year and the years prior, even with the Dodgers. And I think it would be a good fit over there for him.
Yeah, right. I have Kenta Maeda going to Boston, our hometown team, the Boston Red Sox. Obviously, their need for pitching depth is very apparent, and he had some better underlying numbers than his ERA showed. I think someone like Craig Breslow is going to notice that and appreciate that, and he's a solid piece to potentially have as like a 3-4 starter who knows with this rotation. But I think the Red Sox may go after a guy like him, especially a low risk type of guy, low risk type of move. And hypothetically, in our world, if it wouldn't hurt if the Red Sox pursued Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It wouldn't hurt to have a fellow countryman also in the rotation. So
Yep.
Yeah, maybe in that hypothetical world it would help out. All right, now on to Reynaldo Lopez.
Yeah.
Where do you have him going?
I have Reynaldo Lopez going to the D-backs. They're a team that kind of struggled out of the bullpen late in this season. It looked good throughout the postseason up until Paul Sewald pitched in the World Series, but they're a team that I think is going to be, like I mentioned earlier with Erod, looking to compete a lot more and going for some things. And I think a good guy to add in the bullpen would be Reynaldo Lopez.
Yeah, it would definitely help them out in the back end. For that reason, and I'm going with him going to the Mets. Mets could use some back end help. I know Diaz is going to come back this year, but they could use some 7th, 8th inning help. I think they were like bottom 10 in ERA out of the bullpen last year, so could use some more help in that back end. So yeah, I have Reynaldo Lopez going there. Now Tommy Pham, where do you have Tommy Pham going?
Similar reason that you had with Michael Brantley, I have him going to the Blue Jays. Tommy Pham really seems to be a guy that like kind of galvanizes a clubhouse and kind of puts people into shape. Like he made a lot of comments about the Mets in their clubhouse, went to the Diamondbacks, and he kind of lifted. I'm not saying he put them in the World Series, but like there was definitely some sort of clubhouse culture change with him. The Blue Jays are a team that I think really needs, kind of like to have a fire lit under them. And I don't know if Tommy Pham is the guy to do that, but if you bring in a guy like that, like you're obviously serious about wanting to win. As weird as that sounds, because Tommy Pham's not like the greatest player ever, but I think the Blue Jays and Tommy Pham would be a fit, and they also need outfielders, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, for sure. I have him staying in the NL West, going to what I believe it will be his 8th team. I have him going to the Giants to join Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Giants, desperately need outfield bats. As I mentioned earlier in the show, they had the 3rd worst OPS out of their outfielders last year, and I think they plan on being a competitor next year. So having a guy like Pham around, not only for on the field purposes but off the field purposes, I think could help them out. And especially if they're not bringing Jock Peterson back. And so I have Tommy Pham going to the Giants. You have him going to the Blue Jays. A lot of these are like flip-flops of teams that have the same positional needs, but we just have them go in different places. So now on to Luis Severino. Really interesting player right now. I mean, coming off a disaster of a 2023, but has shown great potential in years prior, but also has, shown a lack of ability to stay on the field. Where do you see him going?
Luis Severino, I have another I can fix him deal. This one with the Dodgers. It feels very I can fix him for the Dodgers to sign Luis Severino. They obviously need starting pitching, as we've mentioned several times in this show. Um, I know Luis Severino is not the same guy that he was in 2017 and 2018. But I'm sure there's still an above average starter in there somewhere, and it's the Dodgers I think are the team that can bring that out of him.
Right, right. I think like for the same reasoning I have Lucas Giolito going there, I could see a Luis Severino going there as well. My Luis Severino prediction. I've failed to mention the Diamondbacks yet this episode. I think Luis Severino is going to go there. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be an I can fix him scenario, or it just might be relying on him to get back to his old ways, add some depth to that rotation because, as we mentioned, beyond Gallen and Kelly, there are some question marks. So, adding another starter, especially considering I don't have the Diamondbacks getting any other starters. That's why I have Severino going to Arizona. So now on to Robert Stevenson. How about that? One of the
Who
later
never
how
appeared
about
after it.
of the season. Where do you see Stevenson going?
Yeah, I have Stevenson and that 59.9% whiff rate on a cutter going to New York, and joining the Mets. Same reason you had them getting Ronaldo Lopez. Edwin Diaz is coming back next year, and that's obviously huge for the Mets. But their bullpen had deeper issues last year than just not having Edwin Diaz. They're gonna need setup guys. David Robertson was that last year. I don't think he's coming back. So I mean, they're gonna need another guy, and I think Stevenson kind of just fits. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like Brooks Raley, from last year, whatever year it was, where he went from the Rays to the Mets in free agency after a solid year with the Rays that went under the radar. Um, I can see Brooks Raley on the Mets or on the. I can see Robert Stevenson on the Mets last year for that same reason.
Yeah. One thing we mentioned when we complimented the Edwin Diaz signing with the Mets, before the injury and whatnot, him signing 5 years, 102 million was, the Mets didn't really have anyone waiting in the wings to be the closer. And, that was ever present last year. We didn't really see much of a supplementation in that back of the bullpen. We saw David Robertson close, but that bullpen kind of struggled last year. So yeah, adding someone like Stevenson would help out a lot. I have Stevenson going to Houston. Similar guidelines there. Like Astros are pretty analytically advanced. I think they would like Stevenson. They don't have necessarily the same bullpen they had 2 years ago. Like Rafael Montero took some steps back last year. It's, Ryan Presley took some steps back last year. So it's like, they need another guy in the back of that bullpen, and I think it will be Robert Stevenson.
Real quick, this just came from Jeff Passan. Major League Baseball's competition committee has proposed reducing the pitch clock with runners on base from 20 seconds to 18 seconds. This new rule could be implemented in time for the 2024 season. Why? Why would you do this?
Yeah.
2 hours and 45 minutes wasn't short enough, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Forget the fact that it's very possible that the pitch clock has caused injuries to pitchers because Tommy John surgery and elbow surgery was much more of a factor this year than any year prior.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. Why would they do this?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe getting a little bit greedy.
What? Why would they make it 18? That's not even gonna save that much. Like it's 2 seconds on it because A, it's only when runners are on, which is not all the game. And B, it's any time where someone throws the ball with less than 2 seconds on the clock, which really wasn't that many pitches this year.
No, it wasn't.
They
It'll
do
just
that.
create more pressure.
Why would they do this? That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
If-
very, very interesting.
Okay. Anyway, I had to. Yeah, that's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, we'll probably extend more on it if it becomes more realistic, but yeah, that would
Yeah.
kind of stink. Um, so now on to Tim Anderson, interesting free agent case. Hasn't really been good for the past couple years, unfortunately. Where do you think he's going to be going?
Tim Anderson, I could see is another, a guy that can be fixed. A team that's had a kind of a rotating carousel at shortstop over the last year has been the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'd say rotating carousel as if there's been many guys. It's really just been Miguel Rojas since Trey Turner left. But Gavin Lux is probably going to second next year. And they're going to need a shortstop. I think Tim Anderson is the guy that they could bring in and try to, get some form of his pre 2023 self back. Maybe not like his 2019 to 20 self, but like I don't know. Hopefully, he could put up like a 110 to 115 OPS plus. Be a solid enough defender. Um, and be another name on that team certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a guy that, potentially they could give the Jason Hayward treatment to.
After like 2021, imagine Betts, Freeman, Otani, and Tim Anderson in the same lineup.
Yeah, oh my God. That'd be nuts. Um, Even like JD Martinez if they get
Yeah.
him.
Yep.
Um, my yeah, my Tim Anderson prediction, I do not see him playing shortstop on this team. I see him playing second base for this team, and I think it'll be a shorter uh lower dollar amount contract, but I see him going to the Brewers because the Brewers had the third lowest weighted runs created plus from their second baseman last year. I think they would want him to join Willie Adames in the middle of that infield. And, with Anderson's defensive metrics, I think maybe long term he's more suited as a second baseman. So maybe that'll be the first step in that career path. So yeah, I have him going to the Brewers for.
Bold of you to assume they wouldn't trade Willie Adames.
Well, yeah, he could he could play shortstop with William with
Yeah, they said
Willie Adames
everyone's on the block.
departing. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah,
Willie
that's
Adames
true.
might be one of the first guys to go in that sense.
Yeah, that is correct. He's one of the more valuable guys on their team. Now on to Craig Kimbrell. Where do you think he will be going?
Craig Kimball's free agency is so weird because he just isn't really, the name is still there, but I mean, you're not really expecting the same kind of production. He's probably getting like a 1 year deal, and he's kind of going to become a journeyman now at this stage of his career. But I see him going to the Detroit Tigers. They're a team that could use some more bullpen help. They had Will Vest and Jason Foley, which were both pretty good last year. Um, but there's certainly more guys that they could use, especially if they want to compete next year. And I think it would be a good place for Craig Kimbrell to maybe revitalize himself a little bit, and it would certainly help them get some late outs in games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would like that for the Tigers, especially after the 2022 season, they let go of Gregory Soto, Joe Jimenez, and Andrew Chafin.
Mhm.
It was like their three best relievers. So
Yeah,
they need some, they if they want to compete, they definitely need some bullpen help to push them over the edge.
they still had some good relievers last year, even without those guys.
Yeah, yeah, they could yeah, and that could be built on. Um,
Mhm.
with Craig Kimbrell, I have another reunion. Although there's a lot of teams he
There's
could
a
go
lot of
to.
Alex Lang was the guy I meant to mention, but yeah,
Yeah,
Alex Lang, Will Vest.
yeah, yeah.
Just
There's a lot of teams Craig Kimbrell could have a reunion with. I'm going back to the Padres, because the Padres are going to be missing a closer. He's going to be, Kimbrell is a guy with a lot of ninth inning experience, clearly, and he's going to be at much less of a price tag and much less of a commitment than Josh Hader, who we have going to the Rangers. So, that's why I have Craig Kimbrell going to San Diego. Now on to Clayton Kershaw. I
yeah,
mean, it's like Groundhog Day.
yeah. Um, I mean,
Dodgers.
yeah.
It's the same thing every year.
I can't I know that there's always a talk of him going to the Rangers. Like I don't want to ever see him in another uniform,
Me
especially
neither.
because Well, I mean, he already announced that he's going to be out until the summer of next year. Um,
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah, that might. I mean, that's probably going to be less incentive for other teams, and therefore just an easier way for him to just fall back to the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
sucks because he's only 70 strikeouts away from 3,000, and I really want him to get it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Um,
I don't know. I mean, like he's what 35 next year, 36 next year. Like he's getting up there.
yeah. By the way, is Zach Greinke a free agent this year?
Yes, but he said he's unsure if he's going to pitch again next year. Clayton
Uh,
Kershaw is going into his age 36 season.
because
Yeah,
Greinke's like 21 away.
yeah. Greinke is very close. I hope he gets it. I mean, knowing Zach Greinke, he probably doesn't care.
Yeah. I almost hope for him retiring just because it's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
in true Greinke fashion. But it would be good. I mean, I don't know. It does seem like the writers view him as a very fringe Hall of Fame candidate. So 3,000 strikeouts would be certainly be very beneficial for his cause. But yeah, he is uh 21 strikeouts away.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, just give him another couple starts,
give him
please.
8 more starts so he
Yeah.
can get
Yeah.
it.
He'll
um,
get there, maybe.
yeah, exactly. Um, so now on to another former National League MVP from the early 2010s, Andrew McCutchen. Um, who I'll start with my prediction for him. I have him going to another National League Central team. I have him go to the Cardinals because I specifically looked up DH numbers against left-handed pitchers. The Cardinals had the uh, worst OPS from their DHs against left-handed pitchers, and Andrew McCutchen is a left-handed pitching. He's a fiend against left-handed pitching, so
Yeah.
he would help them out a lot. I know the Cardinals were helped out a lot with Albert Pujols in his final year in 2022. And I think Andrew McCutchen could not bring that level of offense, but bring that sort of help against lefties from the DH role. Where do you think he's going to go?
I have him going back to the Pirates. It was a good reunion last year. It felt like he wanted to be there. Unfortunately, I think a lot less of the Pirates now than I did at this time last year. So maybe I'm wrong on the idea of McCutchen coming back because maybe there's a actual contending team that wants him. I mean, yeah, no disrespect to your last or to one of your last how about that, but they have Jared Triolo as their projected fifth hitter who had like a
Yeah,
400 BABIP last year. They have Josh Palacios at 6, Leover Peguero at 9. Like I don't know, man. I want them to be good,
I
but
understand that.
it's so hard to see.
I understand that for sure. Um, yeah, so now on to Tyler Mahle, who has had some injury. He had injury trouble last year. He kind of underperformed in 2022. Had some upside in 2021. Where do you see Tyler Mahle going?
Yeah, I have him going to the Cardinals. I mean, I think we've both been pretty in agreement that the Cardinals need multiple starting pitchers this offseason. I had them earlier getting Marcus Stroman, and I have them getting Tyler Mahle as well. I think he's a guy that has some pretty good upside and probably won't cost a lot. He's obviously coming off of Tommy John surgery, and he looked very good in Cincinnati, and looked all right in Minnesota. It was a smaller sample size, but um, I think it's a guy that the Cardinals can take a good flyer on and probably get maybe get some decent innings out of him and get some good run prevention as well.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that happening. I have I have Tyler Mahle staying in Minnesota, largely because I have both Gray and
Maeda
Maeda
leaving.
leaving town. And they're gonna need like an extra guy. And also maybe this is just how I would view it from a front office perspective, but they've kind of failed hard on that trade with letting go of Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion
That is a good
Strand.
point.
So you kind of want to have like an extra belief, an extra incentive there. And, if he sticks around and has a good year, that it looks a little bit better. So maybe there's a little bit of that, but for other reasons, I also think Tyler Mahle will stay with Minnesota.
Yeah, that is a good point.
So now on to Whit Merrifield, two-time hit king.
Yep.
Shout out to him. Where do you think he's gonna go?
Yeah, also like 2019, like late 2010s Iron Man of baseball.
Yeah,
I have him going to the Mariners. They had some really bad production out of second base last year with to start the year Colton Wong. They had Josh Rojas there last year. Uh, they definitely need an upgrade there, and I think Whit Merrifield kind of fits that type of offense, especially with whatever they've been looking at second base over the last couple of years. They had Adam Frazier playing there. They had Colton Wong playing there, like I just mentioned. Uh, and you know what? Whit Merrifield's basically the same guy.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have him going to the Marlins. Marlins could use some outfield help. They could use second base help, or no, not second base help. They could use outfield help. Excuse me, I forgot Luis Suarez was there. But they could also use base running help. I think they were one of the lower ranked teams in BSR last year. So yeah, that could an acquisition with Whit Merrifield could help them out. And it just seems like a Marlins acquisition to just get Whit Merrifield randomly late in his career. And now so now on to Jock Peterson. Where do you think he's going to be headed?
Yeah, I have Jock Peterson going to the Rays. I think they're a team that was always looking for more power bats at every turn. And they had some breakouts this year. You know, Luke Raley, Josh Lowe looked very good for them in their outfield DH positions. And I don't know how much they're banking on those guys to repeat that success next year, but Jock Peterson's a guy that you can, proven pencil in and have him put up, 20 home runs. Maybe won't be the best defensive player and best overall, but he's a guy that'll add some more thump to that lineup, which is always a plus, and certainly always what Tampa is looking for.
Right. I just pulled up his baseball savant page, and I'm liking it more and more as I'm liking the idea of an acquisition of him more and more throughout time. He had a 90th percentile expected WOBA last year. Got a little bit unlucky last year, but I have him going to the Yankees. I think they'll get some more outfield bats. I think if I'm keeping track of my predictions correctly,
Yeah.
I think I only have the Yankees getting like Bellinger and like maybe another pitcher. So
You had Garver, right?
oh yeah, Garver. So another outfield bat to go along with Cody Bellinger and Aaron Judge, someone who is only going to require like a 1 or 2 year deal probably. I think that could happen. Obviously I feel like it's cliche to talk about with every left-handed bat, like, oh, short porch, but there is that factor. So so yeah, I think that could happen. Now on to
Joey
a
Gallo.
former Yankee who we kind of had those thoughts with when we went to the Yankees, but Joey Gallo, where do you think he's going to go?
Yeah. I don't know if this is actually my prediction or not, but it's definitely something that I really want to speak into existence. I have Joey Gallo going to the Rockies. Tell me that wouldn't be a fun time.
It would be so fun.
Like Joey Gallo might be past the point of contenders looking at him. He probably isn't. I'm sure there'll be at least one contender that's like, you know what? We know what potential is in there. Maybe the Rangers check in again. But I mean, come on. Tell me Joey Gallo to the Rockies wouldn't be a fun time.
It would be a very fun time. It would be a very, very fun time. I'm not gonna ride against that at all.
Yeah. I'd say if I had to pick a contender, I would go Orioles. But I'm gonna ride that one out.
Yeah, my prediction is the Reds. I think part of it has to do with they made some outfield acquisitions, in the waiver trade deadline or like whatever that was, like when the Angels and Yankees just released a bunch of players basically, but they got Hunter Renfroe and Harrison Bader. Gallo is kind of in that like Hunter Renfroe archetype, and I think they would want to get him on a cheap deal in a Great American Ballpark to help him out. So yeah, I have him going to the Reds. You have him going to the Rockies. Frankie Montas, where do you think he's going?
I have him returning to the Bay Area, which is where he made his big league debut, and I have him join the San Francisco Giants. I have him and Aaron Nola joining that rotation. Um, he's a guy that is coming off of some injuries, but the potential is there. I know that his numbers outside of Oakland weren't great in 2022, but I think it's the guy, and it's also he would be returning to Bob Melvin. There's that familiarity there. Bob Melvin seems to love having players return from former teams, with Sean Manaea being one of them. I think there are some others as well, but yeah, I want to roll with Giants for Frankie Montas.
Yep. I have him going to the rival team. I have him going to the Dodgers.
Okay.
Dodgers need that starting pitching depth, and so far, I only have Lucas Giolito penciled in as an addition for that rotation for 2024 specifically. I know Ohtani would be there for 2025 and beyond, but yeah, that's a lot of the reasoning there. So a lot of the same reasoning there. James Paxton, where do you have him going?
I have James Paxton to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think they definitely need another pitcher. Um, Kyle Gibson. I know Paxton may not be the best with his injury history, because that's kind of what plagued the Reds last year. But they need a guy. I don't see them going out and getting one of the big guys. But I could see them getting someone in the tier of James Paxton.
Yeah, would make a lot of sense. I have him going to Atlanta. A lot of the reason I don't really have Atlanta having much free agent action
Yeah, I
this
had none.
offseason. Yeah, or you have a Duvall, right?
Oh, I did have Duvall. Yeah, you're right.
But if that counts, he's
Yeah, no,
he's always his heart's always there.
yeah, it's not really an acquisition.
Yeah,
It's like he was injured in 2023.
yeah, pretty
And he's
much.
just coming, it's like an internal, it's like one of those cliche, like, oh no, we did get additions at the trade deadline. It's the guys coming off the IL.
Yeah, like him like leaving the Braves is like an open relationship. Like he's seen other people, but he knows where his heart's really at.
Yeah, like it's like at the end of the day, he's committed, but sometimes he's going other places.
Yeah. um, but but yeah, with Paxton going to the Braves, like I could definitely see the Braves adding a starting pitcher. They don't have like a fully complete rotation right now. Like they have Strider, Fried, Morton,
Mhm.
but could use another guy. And they're obviously in a very, very competitive window. So I could see them adding a veteran like James Paxton. It would be similar to like a Charlie Morton type deal, except less money probably. And now on to the last free agent, Liam Hendricks. Where do
Yeah.
you think he's gonna go?
I have Liam Hendricks going to the Dodgers. I don't know. I mean, more bullpen is never a bad thing for any team. I I don't really know what the logic is there, but I don't know. It just seems like a fit. That's definitely the one that I have the least analysis on. I kind of like, for a lot of these, I try to look at like team needs and feel and where that player would fit. For Liam Hendricks, I was like, Dodgers seems legit.
Yeah, no, I get it. It seems legit, and um, they've had those like types of deals for guys at the back end of the rotation, like Kimbrel last year, or no, not last year, 2 years ago in 2022, and
Mhm.
then like Tommy Kahnle, they signed like on a 2-year deal, like after he got Tommy John, and like saw if they could try to work him out. Yeah, I can see that happening with the Dodgers. I have him going to the Cubs, staying in Chicago, and the Cubs could use another bullpen guy. Like, Adbert Alzolay seems like the back end guy. But in case he blows up next year, like Liam Hendricks could be another option for that ninth inning for them. I'm curious if Hendricks is a ninth inning option for a contender next year, because he's coming off a year where he had a lot of adversity and not a lot of experience on the mound. So yeah, we'll see about it. But that's part of the reason why I have him go to the Cubs is just going across town, and also like Cubs could use him, and on a team that plans to contend next year. All right, well that does it for all those free agents. How
Yeah,
fun.
very nice.
Um,
That was quite a, that
hopefully
was quite a lot.
hopefully we can get like 10, 15 of them right. That would be
No,
cool.
I was gonna say like 5 to 10.
Yeah, that would
10,
be
15
cool.
would be a great day for us.
That would be. That would be. I mean, considering I know team like team positional needs would change the curve a little bit, but thinking 1 out of 30, like all these teams, all these players have a technically like a 1 out of 30 chance. Like we have a 1 out of 30
Mhm.
chance of being right. So
Yeah, well,
technically,
there's 50 choices, so statistically,
we want to
we'd
get
have to get
two.
one, two. Yeah,
We want to get like two, and then that's like a good day for us.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's like the mean.
exactly. So if we can get Otani and Kershaw to the Dodgers, we have had a successful
Yeah,
free
yep.
agent prediction. Um,
If I get Kershaw to the Dodgers and Duvall to the Braves.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, anything more before we wrap this up?
What do you think would be like the one you're most proud of if it hits?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think
Um,
mine would be Matt Chapman to the Tigers.
mine, I think mine would be Kyle Gibson to the
To the
Reds.
Reds. Yeah, I thought you were gonna say that.
Yeah, because it's like for most of the guys in the middle of the pack, I didn't have much of an explanation for, but that I had finite detail. I was like, he's gonna save innings from Williamson, Abbott, Green, and Lodolo.
Yep.
Um, but who knows? 1 out of 30 chance. We'll see. Especially with him, he's not budgets aren't really limiting teams on getting Kyle Gibson. So yeah, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one, our little MLB free agency prediction extravaganza. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Check out all the shorts. Just dropped a new one on a free agent, Cody Bellinger. So also follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then.